No, I didn't do it. Alright. Alrighty. Alright, we're streaming. Alright, let's get over here. Alright. Let's wait. Let's wait. We'll see. Let's just wait a few minutes, and then we'll get started on this. Alright, I guess we'll just get started. A bit of noise going on in my house right now. So, I don't. I'm guessing some of you guys know who Fawful's Minion is. I used to watch his content a lot back then, and I recently decided to listen to a One Are You. Alright, I guess. Alright, now we can finally start. So, introduction again. Yeah, so you guys probably know who Fawful's Minion is. Maybe you don't, but he wrote a creepypasta, and the reason this creepypasta exists is because he had a nightmare for 14 hours straight, and I recently decided to listen to all of it, and it's actually a good creepypasta, and I've decided I would just sit down and we would listen to all of it, and I'd like to, give my commentary here and there. So there's like three parts of it, and we're gonna listen to a Fawful's Minion read it. So yeah, let's kind of just get into it. I definitely will have some. I might not have a lot to say at first because the story kind of has a slow introduction. But looking at like the views of this series, yeah, they didn't. There's not like a lot here. Came out 9 years ago, and then recently, somebody 2 weeks ago, which conveniently this is just here, somebody made an entire video going over it, and maybe at some point I'll do it myself, but let's just listen to this and I'll give my commentary. Let's begin.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to my psyche. Yes, there's a door if you're too scared to stay, because, well, we have something a teensy bit different. If you have a good memory, a certain event may ring a bell. Last year, at this exact time, I had the nightmare of my life. It wasn't just your ordinary jump scare. This actually terrified me. It was so bad, I didn't wake up for about 14 hours while having it.
Yes, this is true. So, Fawful's Minion just had a nightmare, and then he wrote about it for 14 hours, and I feel kind of bad for the guy. He's probably not watching it, but I think it'd be really funny if he was. hey man, I'm going over your story and stuff. But yeah.
That's what I recall.
a
A
little
few days
insane.
ago, I began to get the same chill it left me with, which resulted in another nightmare. The exact same weekend. I'm hopeful it's a coincidence. The fear the original dream gave me inspired me to write down what I dreamt as well as I could, and the result is this. My first, and I hope to be my only creepypasta. To calm my nerves, I felt this to be necessary. What you're about to hear is exactly what I dreamt. Remember, this wasn't planned, so I ask that you share your thoughts, but know that there was no literary planning. So, I hope you enjoy my little story. A link to a written form is in the description if you want to read along. Now,
Yeah, it's
Turn out the-
sorta loosely based, sorta. So, yep, we're in for a long one here, but it definitely picks up. Trust me, man.
those pesky lights.
Yeah.
This began on a day much like any other I've had before. It was a rainy Friday afternoon, and I was relaxing within my eerily secluded suburban residence. And it was like your ordinary small town house, except literally in the epicenter of a tall field, accompanied by a lone mailbox, next to no crossroad, and with no other example of humans even existing in the span of 18 miles. We had the house, the trees, and phone lines, but little of anything else outside. It's not much, but it is home. It tends to grow on you slowly. It had been a busy week, as the month of May always is, but I was about to enjoy my weekend. This one was a bit more eventful than all the others, however. The upcoming Saturday was in fact the 20th anniversary of my parents' marriage. Sounds like a merry occasion, doesn't it? Well, perhaps not so much. Ironically, the very same day this year was my 20th birthday. This has always been an unfortunate coincidence for me.
Okay, I got a little bit confused here about this. I guess I wasn't paying attention, but for some reason I thought our main protagonist, Logan, was for whatever reason like a kid, but he is a grown man, so that's my fault for being stupid about that. But moving on.
Seeing how this mix-up seemed to push me out of favor, as usual, I was subjected to a weekend alone on my own special day. Sounds horrible, but one learns to get accustomed. My mother and father had already left for their couples getaway hours before I even woke up that morning, almost as if they vanished. They did this every year since I was merely the age of 5, so I was used to it. I've always been left with the facts of my life. They just don't seem to have actual time for me. Though I respected their happiness as a single offspring of theirs, and loyally looked after the house while they were absent, having fun without me. I feel as though I'm a little too devoted for my own well-being. I was bothered by the fact that they spend little time with their only child, and I was too controlled, not to mention distant, to actually bring it up. Suppose it's my fault at the base of it all. But in a strange sense, I secretly didn't mind being left to watch the house so much. It was pretty easy, actually.
That gets very chaotic as that goes on. He's left alone and stuff gets bad.
There was little danger within this lone abode's surroundings, and we had no pets to take care of. It was basically just me out here. It gave me plenty of time to catch up on sleep, experiment with stuff in the kitchen, even do some writing. But at the end of all the chores and priorities, my primary pastime
Interesting. Writing.
had always remained the same, playing video games. After I finished up all the trivial housework, I was left with nothing productive to do. So, I did what any unamused gaming fanatic would do. I settled down inside my room and looked at my large library of games. Most of what I saw were those that I played very recently, not to mention were fresh in my mind. But as I skimmed across my assortment of handheld games, a strike of comfort swept through my head. There I saw it. Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, my favorite game of all time. One that I hadn't replayed in a good while. For over a year, I think. Blissful, I flashed back to its launch day. I was only 15 then, buying the game at my local commercial retailer. Of course, it was like 20 miles away from home, but we always visited that area for goods anyway. You could hardly imagine how excited my adolescent spirit was. I could just feel the wave of enjoyment it gave me throughout the years rush back. A good sign that this was the game of the day. I pulled out the game box without haste, grabbed my light blue Nintendo DSi, and sat down on my nicely made bed. I took a moment to look at the simple yet charming box art, excited to play it all over again. I opened it, took the small cartridge out, and booted it up. I proceeded to load my previous save file up, where my
very, very detailed. Like, there's a lot of detail for the most small stuff here, but again, it really starts to pick up
Progress was reserved all the way up to the acquisition of the challenge medal moments after defeating the stone blooper boss. Essentially, this medal is a gear item that you can equip that shifts the game into hard mode. So from that point in the game onward, I played through the entire adventure. For hours on end, I was having the time of my life, punching my way through the usurped kingdom as Bowser, stomping over evil with the brothers, and of course, smiling at Fawful, the main villain, and his charming English antics. I played, and played, and played, until I finally made up to the final boss battle. The face of my wall clock ticked slightly past 11:30 p.m. I was about to see my thrilling playthrough pay off. The battle started exactly as I remember. Bowser and his dark impersonator clashed with clenched fists and their spectacular special attacks. The sight of Dark Bowser scared me, but in a thrilling, awesome way. He looked tough, as I always knew him to be. However, I still had little trouble whittling away his burly cache of 1,500 health. I got really excited now. I knew that this is where I finally get that climactic final scuffle with the Beanish Mastermind. The second portion of the battle was set in motion. Bowser had punched out and swallowed what remained of Fawful, a mere blob of a bug that possessed amazing power for its size. The battle shifted to Bowser's insides, where both Mario and Luigi had to disable the now massive Fawful bug's defenses and strike down the star's core. Because this was with the challenge medal equipped, I felt like I wanted more of a challenge myself. So, I refrained from using any special attacks. Needless to say, it took me a while to even disable Fawful's giant head. Throughout the course of the fight, I took an astounding amount of devastation from the boss, particularly to Mario.
Alright, let's continue.
After a mistimed counterattack, Mario dropped to the floor. What else would he do? He ran out of HP. Soldiering the remnants of Fawful's vicious attacks afterwards, I used Luigi's turn to try and bring Mario back from his game over. I shifted over to the item block command and scrolled down to where my 1-up mushrooms were kept. I had only one left.
Yeah, so this is where it gets interesting. So, unlike your traditional creepypasta where, ooh, it's all spooky, with this one it's actually executed a I picked the worst time to stream. Jesus, my parents are too loud. Damn it.
Confused me, because I actually checked my surplus of items before.
Yeah, like I said, so unlike your traditional creepypasta where it's like, ooh, it's spooky stuff happens, it's actually executed pretty well with this story. Like, Logan actually has a reason to keep playing this game, and it's not just, oh, he's an idiot, so he'll just play it for the sake of playing it. But no, Logan has a reason to keep continuing, and you'll definitely see why. And you also just gotta wonder, like, why is the game acting this way, too? Like, it is more fascinating. It isn't just, you know, haunted ghosting or, like, a Sonic.exe scenario thing going on. With this story, I wonder just, why is this happening? That's, like, my actual question here. Could this version of Inside Story actually be haunted? Or is there more to it? Like, is the thing inside of it... okay, I'll just get into it a little more, but... Yeah, you know, like, why is this happening?
Plenty of them in there prior to starting this fight. Now it was reduced to only one? Weird. I used this last 1-up mushroom to revive Mario and resume the fight. Having not even attacked the core yet, Fawful was left with one of his insect-like legs to stand on. I proceeded to target the leg, this time with Luigi. The successful double stomp destroyed the final leg. Wrong. This ordinarily should have left Fawful's giant head careening down to the floor, which it did, but not immediately. Instead of the falling animation I remember, Fawful seemed to hover willingly in midair for about 5 5 whole seconds. His demonic red eyes were
Starts
fixated
getting
to where
weird.
Luigi always stands in battle, and his original expression of worry formed into a demented smirk straight at the younger brother. His lower eyelids perked up halfway through the eye socket as he grinned wide. His huge, daunting teeth, that I always saw to be square-like with flat, rounded tips, were now triangular and serrated like those of a famished apex predator. It was the face of one who outwardly
Another thing I guess
desired
I can mention too is like some of the wording I also kind of like. Just stuff like that, just thrown in there.
kill. This lasted for only a matter of seconds, and I figured it was nothing more than fatigue from playing for so many hours. Fawful then predictably fell to the floor like he normally would, where he was vulnerable to damage. He, however, was immediately readying an attack. A large shard of darkness spawned from the star's core, dangled precariously by the same ghastly black threads that held the creature's appendages together. This was an ordinary attack the battle was supposed to let happen, so I assumed what I witnessed before really was just me, until the attack began. The sharpened spike twirled around the mass of the core, like that of a medieval flail. A few cycles passed, and the razor-sharp needle struck the ground, swiveling around the battlefield and violently scraping against it. I coordinated my button inputs carefully, ensuring that both of the brothers avoided all possible damage. It stopped after a few moments, and retracted back towards the core, now charging for another attack. The two brothers simply watched the core charge up. I was sitting there patiently, awaiting the counterattack commands to pop up. They never did. I had literally no control over the two. I was forced to watch. The core surged with the dark aura as it instantly unleashed the move. It was so fast, I couldn't detect a single frame, suggesting where it was originally aimed at. The explosion caused my system's screen to glimmer in unusually bright white. I swore it appeared to be leaking off the ends of the top screen. It eventually
I'm so
faded,
stupid.
but my
Well,
eyes
I
still
just don't pay
detected
attention to
traces of
certain
the bright
details.
flash, even after blinking repeatedly for a whole minute. Following one final forced blink of mine, the blinding light had dimmed down a bit. It was now looking more like the way a DSi screen is supposed to shine. I waited, and waited, and waited. The screen remained ghost white for countless minutes. Believing that my game merely froze up, I sighed a bit and passively glanced up at my wall clock. It was exactly midnight. Feeling exhausted and having my DSi left in a blank state with seemingly no method of waiting it out, I figured it was the right time to pack it in for the night. Knowing I still had lights on in other rooms of the house, I set my DSi down on the old Family Hope chest and got up to resolve this little task, not even bothering to turn the handheld off. Walking past the front door and halting at the foot of the kitchen, I saw that I once again left the laundry room light on. Damned trivial habits. I exhaled a quiet groan, feeling foolish, and walked all the way downstairs to shut it off. I reached for the light switch. The instant I touched it, something promptly made me stop. An irregular sound, a frail yowl of discomfort I've previously heard from one and only one figure. It was Luigi. At least, I think it was.
That's right, fellas. Luigi dies from ligma. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he starts screaming in like pain. So we'll let that play out.
The voice sample I was hearing sounded like something was wrong. The cry was faint, but somehow odd.
Jesus Christ, I need quiet. God.
Oscillated, as if it was right next to my face. It seemed as though my own room was the source. My heart stopped at the very idea of this. Luigi's voice sounded real, yet unnatural. Its resonance blared as though there was an echo to it. The fact that I can hear it all the way down here with such clarity haunted
you could
me.
consider the real thing as cliche. Actually, I don't know if I would in the case of this story. Like, honestly, I don't actually consider that cliche.
DSi speakers were not strong enough for this voice of Luigi's to be like this, let alone carry so well over this distance. I knew this for a fact. I was left in a mental stalemate. I did not want to find out what caused that shrill cry, but at the same time, I
Maybe
did.
there was a certain-
Petrified,
Nah,
I
I
flicked the
couldn't
light
think
switch
of-
off and forced my shivering legs to carry my blanched self back upstairs. I creaked up to the kitchen, taking step after step, purposely pacing myself to avoid the sound for as long as I could. The crying continued. As I creeped closer, the noise gradually became more normalized. I wasn't wearing headphones, but it sure sounded like I was. Turning the kitchen light off as I passed, I slowly and silently locked my front door, intentionally looking away from the source of the distress crying. Shivering all over, I bravely poked my head in.
I can admit that is actually slightly terrifying. Like, you're just playing this game and then for some reason that just starts happening. A screech that seems too unnatural and you just try to ignore it, don't even, like, bother with it.
And stepped forth. I was expecting someone to be in there, but I instead saw my room looking exactly as I left it. My DSi also appeared to have remained untouched. It was still befouled with that ghoulish freeze frame of nothing but white, not moving another muscle. I squeamishly glanced at my bedroom window out of a disturbed sense of self-security. It was closed. Literally nothing was different from before. My tense heartbeat began to regulate itself. The sight of my room calmed me down. But that was soon ruptured. The abhorrent cry I heard from before seemed to be fading back in from the DSi speakers. Luigi's hushed sobbing from before now erupted into a terrifying reverb of distorted shrieks, sounding as real as a victim in a torture dungeon. Luigi's crying shaped into actual speech, accompanied by an echo. I quivered pathetically, standing as still as an icebound statue, listening in horror. Luigi's words sounded like an actual person, like I was at the raw end of live studio recording feedback. I've never heard such a happy, gentle character of this type howl in anguish like that.
How dare you do this to my bro Green Man?
It's the sound of someone begging for mercy, living through a pain he simply couldn't bear. This haunting, tormented screaming was soon to be accompanied by a series of loud stomping and the same exact sound effect used for the dark stars floating in-game. The tremor of the stomps thumped loudly within the right speaker and was slowly shifting closer to the left speaker as Luigi wept quietly. Someone or something was after him. Then silence. For 15 or so seconds, the audio stopped playing. I was still shocked from the sound of poor Luigi's voice. I couldn't help myself to even move a single inch. The idea of turning the system off came to my head, but something kept me from doing so. I couldn't bear to silence Luigi and his somber wailing, even though the well-being of a virtual character's life has no possible effect on my own. I was begging for the game to cease the screaming and shut itself off and end this torment. My mental begging didn't help one bit. Out of the sustained oasis of silence, I could once again hear Luigi screaming, but this time, louder than ever. Just then, a grisly sequence of deafening sounds overlapped the scared Luigi's crying. I could hear slashing, crunching, the sounds
I like to
of
imagine
bones.
that Logan was, I don't know, I'm guessing he was just laying in his bed and then just this like unhoric sound comes out of nowhere of Luigi getting murdered.
Snapping, all arranged in a mix that can only be described as a crocodile claiming its prey. Poor Luigi's cries of agony grew more hoarse and muffled as the racket of disembowelment changed in its speed. The distorted cry for help soon dimmed to nothing, right as the gruesome crunching sounds did much of the same. My eyes were literally flooded with empathetic tears for the unfortunate Mario brother. I couldn't do anything but cry.
Is that a motorcycle?
Luigi, I can hardly
No, wait, that's actually a motorcycle outside. At this time of night.
describe the terror of what I just heard.
Why?
Ever listen to someone you care a lot about passed through a meat grinder? I think I just did. The screen was still nothing but white, letting my imagination nowhere but to run frantically. As soon as I thought it was all over, I heard one final sound. The loud, ghastly churning of someone's throat. A soft, echoing tenor that molded into a moist, lifelike swallowing noise. It reverberated lower and lower, as if traveling down a beast's merciless gullet. Only then did the white screen fade, turning the whole system off on its own. I meekly dropped down on the floor, knees first, and sobbed quietly over the velvet carpet. I clasped both of my temples and forcefully shut my eyes, trying to keep myself together. After a minute of psychological reconciliation, I soundly brought myself back to a natural standing position. Okay, keep your head on. It's been a long night, and you are exhausted. Yeah, that's it. You just need some sleep. I tried convincing myself.
I actually really love Fawful's Minion's narration for this story. Just like the way he could just change his voice on a whim just for these type of scenes or moments. I don't know, if I was to listen to somebody else read this, it just wouldn't really have that same feeling. I guess, like, it just works better listening to this guy tell the story.
That all of this was due to a lack of healthy, normal person rest in my sleeping cycle. So, I stopped everything and went straight to bed, just praying that this would all blow over. Sooner than expected, the morning arrived as early as ever. I woke up, feeling as though it wasn't for very long, graced by the soft cushioning of my own pillow. I still had clear memories of the horror I witnessed, but I suppose focusing on nothing but negative happenings couldn't be healthy, nightmare or not.
Guess so.
I wanted to forget about it, but I simply couldn't. I needed to perk up. It was my own birthday. Of course this will be a good day. Who was I trying to convince? If everything was all sound in my life, I wouldn't have to think about it. Or is the house my persuadee? My head hurt real bad. The reason being unknown to me. Maybe I just needed to wake myself up properly? Yeah, that's just what I need. A barely audible, nervous giggle escaped my mouth for almost no reason. A shower was something that always set me straight and relaxed, so I took with me my favorite pair of clothes and departed for the bathroom. The room's light itself soothed my worries a bit. The good old shine of the small room never failed to ease me down. Now, with a smile, I set my folded attire down on the clean top of the septic tank lid, but I couldn't help but turn to the mirror above the sink. My glasses were still on. Suppose I was too shaky to take them off before bed. But this trivial mistake wasn't the most noticeable thing. Looking straight into the depths of the mirror, I saw that my eyes were now a different color entirely. What was originally a brownish green hazel hue.
Things start to pop off where Logan, his color just disappears. He just starts seeing gray. I mean, if this doesn't do a good job presenting that to you, then this is what it'd be like, gray. Nothing.
It was now a dull, lifeless gray. My eyes clashed with this chilling reflection of mine for a moment longer than I could hope to keep track. Blinking, blinking, and blinking over and over again, just to make the image appear normal. Even after a splash of ice-cold water to the face, my eyes remained this color. I was both creeped out and angry, thinking as though my mind...
This is what makes this story just really interesting. Like, all these things going on, just how? How is this happening? Why is this happening?
And you're still focusing on what I thought occurred last night. Look at you, thinking your eyes have changed. Nothing happened.
that laugh, dude, he could... like, that insane laugh, though, that's peak. That's good.
I cackled deliriously, glaring with a strong expression of malice right at my drowsy self. This still didn't change my eyes back, so I just stood back upright and turned to the shower door, but not before taking a last-minute glance at my reflection. I entered past the door, stripped of my old clothes, and took that damn shower already. A very cold one. 30 minutes had passed, and I left the frigid washing that left me feeling so refreshed and much more awake. I promptly combed my conditioned hair, reapplied my glasses, and slipped my top choice of apparel on. A roomy, crimson-colored t-shirt, and tattered blue jeans that were so baggy you could hang glide with them. I was all set for a great day of relaxation.
Like Mario.
On the way out, however, I ignored the sink mirror and what it showed me before, so sure that I cleansed my eyes of all the dull colors. Fresh air was the next best thing for me to be exposed to, so I headed straight for the front door and opened it up. I felt a cooling breeze blow into the house as I stepped out. It felt crisp, clean, and natural. The cool wind made me want to breathe it in. I inhaled a bit of the freshness and took a deep breath. The next sight I saw wasn't pleasant at all.
Gray.
All the grass in our field, although swiveling to and fro from the gentle gusts, was a disturbing shade of gray. Every blade of it was the same as my eyes, completely sapped of green pigment. I was starting to get scared, but thinking about it would only make matters worse. I swiftly banged my face against the side of the house, astounded that my glasses took no damage. Gritting my teeth, I had to literally force an open smile to properly appear delighted, even though I knew for sure I looked like a cocky cretin, halfway comatose with some new kind of sugar. Out of nothing more than paranoia, I tilted my grinning mug back and forth, swiftly looking across both sides of the tall grass. Without the bright color given off, the grass that surrounded my house seemed to be in an undead state. But that wasn't possible, was it? I reached out to touch it, but was surprised to feel an ordinary texture, to which I just paused with tightened lips and looked away from it. Whether purposeful or otherwise, my eyes were now lined up with the dank black hue that was our mailbox. I cut back on the forced smile and walked up to it, opening it up to see if anyone had sent me something.
This is actually another, I guess, thing I could say I like about the story. So, Logan starts getting stuff in the mail, I don't know. It happens in like a sort of like a span of like, I guess like 2 days. I'm not gonna. He gets like a Mario hat, but then it just gets even more insane.
Sure did. Inside was a standard parcel from the county post office. I reached inside and pulled the package out. I examined all sides of it, but there was no sign of any previous address or sender. My eyes locked on the mail I received, carefully tearing the paper off as I returned to the foot of my front door. Inside was what appeared to be a lump of sock material and an envelope. I immediately opened up the envelope and read what the card's cover said. To Logan.
Yeah,
It looked as though this card was
and then words just kind of start to disappear from this guy's life.
indeed for me, but there must have been a problem with the postmaster's printer. The L that's supposed to start the entirety of my own name wasn't there. Must have been an error. I opened up the card and saw a message hand-drawn with very formal printing. To our very special boy. We thought this would, cheer you up. Best wishes, Mom and Dad. Despite the recurring lack of the letter L, my face lit up like any happy child would. Hearing from my parents, even in text,
Okay,
made
I'm
me
probably
feel a ton.
I don't know. Okay, I'm so okay. I can't tell if Logan is like. Okay, hearing this line just makes me confused if he is or is like. Is he an adult or is he a kid? It's confusing me a little bit. I guess he's like an adult. I guess just a choice of wording. I don't know. Like I said that in the beginning. Oh yeah, I guess he is an adult, but now I'm confused again. A little.
More relaxed. But even in this happy moment, I couldn't help but notice something bizarre. That's not my parents' handwriting. For one, they always write their letters in cursive, and they would never write this bold. The streaks were clearly formed by something pen-like, but it looked like I would track ink on my fingertip if I were to touch it, but whatever, right? I swapped the odd card out for the material underneath it. Flipping it outward, it was a Mario cap. Authentic, silky soft, and very bright red. My mother and father knew just how much I loved Mario and his games, so this brought back a sense of safety for me. I smiled brightly and slipped on the hat without delay. It was comfortable and seemed to fit my head just right. Oddly, the bottom of the cap felt warm, almost as if someone had worn it before me. Still, I enjoyed my gift. I was suddenly put back into a Mario mood. I wanted to play one of his games yet again.
And that's the first part of this creepypasta. So yeah, it's pretty slow, but it doesn't do a bad job building like the tension for the story. You know, how Logan gets to this point. Very wordy, but he explains like the weird happenings that goes on with this game. And like with like other creepypastas, with this version, like doing this whole messed up game thing, it's actually intriguing. Like it makes you it makes me wonder, or maybe you wonder, like why is this happening? Why is this going on? And the real question is, why is this happening to Logan? You know, it's definitely like it's slow, but we really does like build the tension to what is to come. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think of the story so far? I'm gonna check. I don't know. Say good or bad, cause I'm curious. Like let me know. Yo, it be Rick. It I've been there, Rick, with the Alright, well, alright, let's just continue. We got like 30 more minutes left, so let's get into part 2. Which is surprisingly shorter, but, you know, whatever. Oh, I'm getting an ad. I'm getting an ad! Yeah! Yeah! Whoa! I hate ads. Alright, come on. Come on, I'm watching something.
No more.
Oh my god, I don't wanna... I want to see dead Luigi. Alright.
I entered through my front door and stumbled back into my room. What I saw was terrifying. Something was very, very different about my room. Glancing at my possessions on the shelf, some of what I owned was now defiled. All of my Mario games seemed to have some type of change.
So this is where it gets even more screwed up. So Logan's game... Wow, my cat is snoring hard. But yeah, Logan's games start to get pretty messed up where just Mario is just... He's just sad. Bye, guy. F for Mario.
To their covers. Those with Mario on the cover depicted him without his hat and had a flood of tears streaming down a newly distressed face. He appeared to be crying about something. Touching my case of Super Mario
Luigi's
Galaxy,
dead.
oh my god, the white casing felt very, very warm, and not in a comforting way. It felt like I was literally touching the face of a living, breathing person. And touching the tears, they left my fingertips
it's
damp.
So weirdly messed up in a way that this is just happening to this guy specifically. Nobody... Well, I'll get into that in the end. Like, I'll, do a deep dive of this story once we make it to the end. But it's really interesting that it's happening to this guy.
Couldn't even pick up any traces of the gasps I knew to be leaving my mouth, for my heart was pounding much too loud. I could hardly think, but the depictions of Mario were songs spoken from an angel compared to what I saw next. Every single depiction of Luigi showed his artwork to be a murky, sable figure with the exact same shape he was as before. It was the same as a fussy child, coloring in a doodle that he couldn't stand to see anymore, with the darkest color of crayon they could find. Not a single bit of this black shading was irregularly filled in, nor was any of it beyond Luigi's outline, which was now colored a horrid tinge of what I would call malignant mauve. Now I knew that something wasn't right at all. These outlines were polarizing to the way Mario had been changed, whereas touching the red brother, I felt the foreboding but frigidly warm feeling of touching someone's imprisoned face, what I would name a wake-up call to the senses. The variances the shapes of Luigi had been plagued with was an essence I'd only ever felt in the darkest of my nightmares. The violet streaks seemed to have been carved by something sharp and imbued with a menacing evil, glowing purple like a sun-drenched amethyst jewel. The inner lines resembled
Like
a wicked
Steve
alchemist's
Murdoch.
tonic cased in a black vial, and they were pulsating like veins. With the impulse of hexing curiosity overpowering me, I slowly reached out to touch it. The shading felt colder than anything I've ever felt before. It was like the repulsive sensation of touching a dearly departed gelid, hollow cadaver. My throat dry as dust. I swallowed hard as reaction to this haunting phenomena. I then touched the most insidious portion of all, the outline. Touching it caused my finger to receive unbelievable, searing agony. I screamed.
How does that happen to some? So this guy is just, going around his room and then fire, burn.
In pain, reeling my arm back swiftly and
fire.
stepped away from it, as if to avoid a contagious disease. The vein-like frames around the silhouette left my finger with a visible, almost voltaic laceration tinted black. I imagine this is what touching the tentacles of a jellyfish would feel like, feeling nothing but pain. I dipped my injured finger into my mouth, hoping that would help tone the unbearable burning feeling down. Then, I noticed one of my games was missing entirely. My copy of Luigi's Mansion was gone. Just knowing
That is just
that
so mess. So then Luigi's Mansion just disappears.
I had an even bigger depiction of Luigi up on my wall. I slammed my eyes shut and quivered in a stiff stance. I was horrified to even open another eye, but I knew that I had to see it eventually. I forcefully rotated my pathetic, shivering body back over the head of my bed and opened my eyes. The giant poster of Luigi I had posted up on my wall had a collection of huge, black scratches swiped across it. Every
Awful.
hint
Why
of
would
green
you
was
do
grayscale,
this?
which was no surprise to me at this point. However, the sight of this poster in shreds shot a grimacing chill down my spine. Something, a raptor by the looks of it, clawed out everything from head to feet. There was a scrape down the center that seemed to have been more powerful than the rest, since it glowed with the same hue of the pulsating veins, and the claw marks dug straight through the wall itself. My face froze solid for a long minute, until I punched myself and clenched the rims of my eye sockets. What the hell is happening to me?
Scratch.
I began to cry, feeling more and more scared as every second passed. I desperately wanted to know who would do this to anyone, let alone poor little Luigi. I knew
I just love how
there was
Luigi
only
just
one
gets,
way
like,
to find out
tortured in this story, dude. They don't let him go. They literally rip on the guy.
for sure.
Mario
I looked
feel
over at my
miserable.
DSi flat on the hope chest with the sneer of illogical resentment. It was officially my enemy, and I had to defeat it, no matter what.
So yeah,
right?
this is the turning point for Logan. So the story, all of this going on, actually gives like Logan a reason to play this game, and it isn't just, oh, I got this game from my friend, I'm gonna play it anyways because I'm stupid. No, Logan has motivation to play this game, so he can like somehow fix this issue, and that doesn't go well. But he tries. He tries pretty
Angrily
hard.
gripped the heinous device and pulled it with me into the base of my bed, starting Bowser's Inside Story up once more. No splash animation played. It brought me right to the title screen. A very different one from before. The word Luigi and the ampersand were not present in the logo. Whatever fragments of the original title left over were a trifle bolder than some of the other letters. It literally read off as Mario, Bowser's Inside Story. I see that
Wow.
it spelled out a cryptic message to
Luigi's
me.
dead.
But I didn't know what it meant. A 1? I don't get it. Ignoring
Oh, the
every bit of
title.
altered material on the startup
A
screen,
1 are you?
I simply chose Start Game with a very unhappy feeling. The standard file selection looked different too. Every icon of Luigi was missing. There was no green whatsoever, and instead
him.
it said
Dead.
choose a save file E. But as I looked over to the right side, I noticed a third file pane slightly exposed to my sight. I went to select it, and it looked like an ordinary empty file.
Okay,
No
I'll just
odd
say-
text.
I like how this story does something where our main protagonist is suffering from like an actual side effect of playing this game, where it isn't just he gets instantly like, well, I guess I won't spoil it, but I like seeing this where he like Logan is suffering and he's somehow trying to figure this out.
aside from the L missing from the title, and it was even numbered as the third file to select, even though the game only allows 2 to exist. So, I selected
Let's get back into it. I hate how I have to keep pausing because noise in my house.
the third file. What should have been an opening cutscene was instead replaced by the first instance of overworld gameplay. The place was Peach's castle, except it was the version Fawful had usurped in the story, but still playing
I want to
like the
mention
beginning of
this. So somebody actually made like a somewhat, well, not playable, but like a playable depiction of this story. I don't know if we'll have time to check it out, but it's pretty interesting.
the game.
I never watched
Mario
it, but somebody actually did that.
slowly entered the picture from the bottom screen, short of his hat and all by his lonesome. I was able to control Mario like normal, but his in-game sprite was very different. He appeared to be frowning very strongly, and his eyebrows were curved downwards, exhibiting a depressed disposition. His skin was also much paler than the usual color. Its complexion was like that of a ghost. He was not the same Mario at all. The second icon that belonged to Luigi, that was always mapped on the upper hand corner, completely gone. I tapped the B button in vain for about an hour, just wishing it would make Luigi come back and hop
And
once
how-
more.
Wait, did
My
Logan
wish
actually
never
do
came
that for an hour, just trying to revive Luigi?
true. Mario's icon remained untouched, except for the HP counter. It showed the number at 0, which is impossible to see on the overworld. I walked around to see if anything else changed. In mere minutes, I ran into a room filled with a few Toad NPCs. They were in the exact same position as before, but were now wearing masks, very much like the creatures Fawful brainwashed and turned into enemies in the story. Their eyes were replaced by spiraling spectacles, and the same grin the Beanish Lord always has showing. It freaked me the hell out. I spoke to every last one of them, and they had this to say. Oh, it's just you. Did you enjoy that one-up mushroom? Not so super. Are you, Redcap? Defect.
Love this line.
I couldn't believe what I was reading. The Toads addressed me as if I were a criminal, clearly ashamed of something I did. And that last remark, defect, that sliced my heartstrings. I was baffled by every bit of this. The game was upset with both me and Mario. But why? All I wanted was an answer. What did I do to deserve this? With nowhere else to go but the conference room, I had no choice but to enter the top. The second I entered the conference room, I was blocked off by 2 guard Toads. They too were wearing those freaky masks, and they also spoke to me. A one, are you? A pay face.
He said it! He said it! He said it!
A gooey tie face. The right-hand guard jumped squarely onto Mario's head, taking his hammer away from him. This is a hero's hammer. It's about time you've returned it. Pulling the hammer straight back, the brainwashed Toad forcefully slammed it clear against the back of Mario's head, knocking him out cold. Mario collapsed face first onto the floor, not even shouting in anguish from the painful-looking blow to the head. The Toads began to drag Mario's limp body by his legs. The scene was ended by an iris wipe as the Toads were taking Mario into some other room.
So now it ramps up even harder, and now I'm getting an ad. We'll just do the next video, but the story in like the middle portion really does start ramping up in quality. So hang on, let's let this stupid ad. I hate you, YouTube. Let me use an ad blocker. So yeah, it gets pretty interesting where the game is just really corrupted now. Logan, like everything in Logan's house, like Mario possessions are now just screwed over. Luigi's gone, and now the game has really just went all out. And I don't know what my favorite part of this story would be, because each part of this is like somehow pretty investing, but the middle part the story is like really ramps it all up. And then just like the game's weird identity change where the Toads, for whatever reason, are now addressing Mario, yes, you, the hero, as some sort of criminal, you know, for killing Luigi. In the game, I guess, is just mad at you for this. And it's so fascinating that this is happening to this guy, Logan, of all people, somehow. So yeah, here we go. The climax of the story.
The following scene opened up with the transition wipe I saw earlier, and displayed Mario held captive by what I thought to be a giant statue of Fawful. Its arms were exposed outward, unlike the normal statues found in-game. Only Mario's head was sticking out from the grip of the hulking stone effigy. Its fists appear to be tightly squeezing the plumber, restricting him from movement. The room appeared to be Bowser's overtaken throne room from early on in the story. Mario was unconscious. I wasn't even sure if he was alive. Nothing else went on from there. The game appeared to be frozen once again, but my past experience with this game in the last 24 hours struck me with a grueling skepticism. I knew for damn sure this wasn't anything planned, hacked, or glitched in any possible way. The game, for as scary as it sounds, was testing me. Feeling unnaturally adamant about this whole freaky phenomena, I had no choice but to play this game's game. I sat as still as a building on my bed, glaring at the screen. I knew that taking my eyes off it for even a moment meant another missed answer, or even something worse. I sat there for many hours, just waiting for the scenario to change, but it never, ever did. Was I really having a staring contest?
What did Logan just sit there for 3 hours straight, or just several hours straight, waiting for something to happen? Just he sat there and was like, "Yeah, we'll just see what happens."
The game, or am I just crazy? I'm not crazy. Please believe me. As much as I wanted to look up and see the time, I forced myself not to. I clenched the rim of my gifted Mario hat, the same as a frightened child would his mother's loving hand. It was the only thing keeping my spirits up. I went well into the post-evening hours without moving an inch, hardly thinking of anything else. I stopped to blink once every minute or so, which was utter hell on my eyes, but I really didn't care at this point. Eventually, I had no choice. My human body and its functions shut itself down to conserve energy. I naturally passed out from fatigue. After what seemed like only minutes, I awoke in a huge sputter. I quickly flickered my head in many directions, trying to get a clear view of my surroundings. Fearing that I royally slipped up, I looked down at my DSI still open and firm in my hands. It was turned off. I gasped, pulling it closer to my face. Did the battery die? I tried turning it back on, but that didn't work. It must have ran out of battery after all. I bolted out of my bed, still adjusting to my meek, underused legs, and hastily went to connect the system to its charger. I plugged it into the wall socket first, but when I tried connecting it to the system, it surged back at me, painfully shocking my hand. I dropped the system in response to the jolt.
Everything around Logan, or this stuff in his room, just hates him, man.
Of pain, clenching my injured hand with the other one. I glanced down at the DSI with the face I don't think I've ever given, not even to my spiteful relatives. I had another should I do it moment. I thought twice about touching the damn thing, but I gave in to my curiosity. I reluctantly picked it back up and attempted to recharge it once more. Thankfully there was no shock, but it still didn't work. I sighed with a breath of frustration, thinking that I missed something important. The time was 2:30. My weekend was coming to a close. I shut my DSI and set it down, feeling like I could drop dead from exhaustion at any second. I weakly slumped over to my bed and collapsed into it. I decided to give up on this whole thing and actually get some healthy sleep. I took one of my pillows and lightly pushed it against my face, feeling its soft padding. I closed my eyes and tried falling asleep. It didn't last long. Through even the fluffy innards of my pillow, I could hear a loud, piercing noise. It sounded very close, frighteningly close. I was too scared to see what was causing it, so I instead tried making a picture of what I heard. It sounded like something was scratching on my bedroom window, which was only inches away from my own bed. It was a mix of shrill, ear-shattering scrapes against cold glass and the organic, chilling, slicing noise one could only feel by carving through another's living flesh. It was one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard in my life. Whatever was making the sound must have done it with intention. No way in hell was a sound like that accidental. My first thought was that it was a cat, or perhaps a starving bear, but even I know that couldn't be. Putting trust in my own senses for a brief second,
I'll get into that. There's so much I gotta talk. There's a lot I have to say at the end. I'll wait.
To be honest, it did not sound from any sort of reality. The grating continued for 5 minutes until it mysteriously stopped on its own. I got up and squeamishly approached the window. The scraping sounded severe, yet there wasn't a single scratch on my window. I knew that I had to see what was out there, no matter how much I wanted it to go away. I picked up the burliest blunt object nearest to me, which was a steel baseball bat, and went straight for the front door. Taking a cursory glance at what was behind me, I turned the knob slowly and opened it as silently as I could. I took a careful look out of the door's small opening, but nothing was there. The glow of our porch light brought every inch of our field into clear view. There was no wind, almost no sound at all. The only thing I could hear were the sounds of my very quiet footsteps coming off of the porch. My restless nature resulted in me constantly looking around. Even if no sound was to be heard, I stopped for a moment to examine the tall grass, relieved to see that the field was completely empty. I creeped with caution through it, although the rustling sound made me really nervous. Rounding the corner with a bat straight out, I was surprised to see nothing at all. But it couldn't be that simple. Was I just imagining things? Getting closer to my actual window, my next step through the tall grass exposed something under my windowsill. The light inside my room gave enough of it off for me to get a proper visual. It looked like the same Mario hat that I was wearing, only gray. I bolted my eyes open, piecing a detail together. The hat was green. Not wanting to actually touch it, I eased my bat against it, trying to knock it off the wall. The gray hat fell to the ground, showing the front view of it. There was no logo, just a blank space above the rim, but I already knew what this was. Officially feeling spooked, the view of this second cat brought a myriad of questions to my mind. Mainly things like, what the hell is going on? And why is this happening? The prolonged stare I gave to
That's
the
what
hat
I'm
led my
asking.
eyes to the bottom of it,
Pop
where I can
up.
see a bit of
Stupid pop-up. Get out of here. We don't need you here, pop-up. We are only here for, Fawful's minion. Get out of here. Get out! Get out! Get out. Oh, whatever. It'll go away.
paper
guess.
sticking out from under it. I used my free hand to turn the cap over
Come on.
and see exactly what that paper
on.
was. It was a note, written in what I believed to be
Whatever,
black
whatever,
ink,
whatever.
as thick as fresh blood. It spelled out, "A one, are you?"
He said it!
That was the exact same thing the masked toad asked me.
What the
I
hell?
shot
Why
my
is it not going
stance
away?
back and took several quick steps behind me. Whatever
Go
was
away.
trying to scare me finally succeeded. How
I'm
in the
stuck here.
hell could text from my game be referred to anywhere out here? I'm the only one that knows about it, aren't I? It was hard to depend upon even my own inner thoughts, yet they were telling me something. I'm not the only one out here. Looking back at the lurid note, I noticed one of the corners was folded in. I turned it over with my trembling hand and saw another message inscribed with the same black writing. What a nice gift. Gift? Did it mean my hat? Whoever wrote this seemed to know
Yeah, they did.
quite a lot about me. I went to touch it and felt something underneath, something that clearly wasn't there before. I tipped it up and reached for what was concealed. It was a pistol. I was freaked out, wondering how a sidearm got in there.
Wow, that pop-up. Wow, I hate this computer sometimes. Just don't go away. Don't go away. But yeah, so Logan gets a pistol, a gun, and he's gonna use this at some point.
In the first place, but I had the feeling I needed more to defend myself with soon. I stared eyes agape at the note, wondering if whatever figure wrote it could actually see me. I held the pistol firm in my hand, seeing that the safety was already turned off. What did this mean? Right from the midst of
Give
my
him a
silence,
gun.
a loud metal thud bursted from where my back was turned. I dropped the bat and clenched the curious pistol with both hands, pointing it squarely at where I heard the racket. I stood my guard, gun outward like a turret, for a minute or two. No other sound followed. It came from my front yard. I swallowed so hard it hurt me. All I wanted to do was wait here until my parents returned, no matter how long I had to wait. But whoever's tormenting me wants just that. Me. And they were gonna get it the hard way. I kept my entire
Gonna
self
kill him.
close to the gun, knowing it was my greatest, not to mention only means of defense. Rounding the corner gave me no new answer, only my barren front yard. Except, hang on, something was different about our mailbox. The crimson metal flag on the side was flipped, normally signifying a mail clerk delivering something. Not straight up, but slanted in the direction of the house. I was getting more and more afraid for every minute that passed. Who is sending me mail at 3 in the morning? The post
In the
doesn't even
morning?
run on Sundays. Feeling uneasy about
this
where I was
happening
currently
at night?
standing, I rushed over to the mailbox, stopping to see
Dude's
what was
in an
around me for
endless
a moment.
hell.
I couldn't help but feel as if I was being watched. I kept the pistol right at my side, just in case something popped out at me. I used my other hand to tilt the flag back to normal, and then opened the mailbox. Reaching inside caused me to feel another note. I held my hand in there and closed my eyes, just hoping it would be nothing. I pulled it out and read what it had to say. "A you need is you." I've nearly reached my breaking point. These messages, they don't directly threaten me, but instead seemed more like miniature riddles. All I could think to do at that moment was scream, and I had no reason not to. I angrily shouted at the top of my miserable voice,
my favorite
"I
part-
read your notes! I played your game! I deserve an answer!" I dropped my
Yeah, you know what? Screw that FNAF quote. I always come back. This is probably the best quote. This is something I'm probably going to actively quote. I've played your games. I've read your notes. What do you want? I probably quoted it wrong, but that's the best thing to quote from this story. And also a one are you.
myself to the ground and clenched my fists harder than ever. Who are you? Hearing my voice echo, I knew my yell was loud enough.
Yeah, he's mad.
But still nothing. I looked at the note's message again, which didn't help me one bit, until I turned the paper around. And Fawful. I instantly threw the
Fawful?
paper back and gasped, shocked at what I just read. Fawful? It was Fawful? No! No way in hell! He's not real! At what was
Yeah, he's not
probably my
real.
third decision at calling something final, I passed it off as nothing more than a sick prank. Still down at my knees, I noticed something else in the mailbox. I groaned, expecting another fake note. What I found was my mother's wedding ring. The gemstone
That
was
is so
cracked,
messed up,
with the
dude.
chunk of it missing, and several warm drips of blood around the rim. I froze solid, feeling like
Did
my
Fawful
heart
kill
had been
this
ripped
guy's
out.
parents?
Mom, Dad, no! A flood of tears leaked from my eyes. The closest part of me had been destroyed. I was all alone now. I bawled like an orphaned baby at the sight of the mangled ring, knowing that my loving parents suffered the same. Then another sound played. The first bit of sound
So
made me
Fawful
jump
killed-
and
I didn't-
fire my gun in a completely
Okay, I guess I never paid attention to this, but this Fawful, I guess, killed his parents. Why? Fawful, you're evil.
different direction. Then it played again, louder than before, but still faint. I was so devastated. I was about ready to kill whatever I saw next. This noise seemed familiar, and in a very bad way. I shot once again out into the open, hitting nothing at all. I waited for a moment to let it play again. I can now tell what I was hearing. That was the sound used for Fawful's speech in-game. It was coming from my room. Out of feeling so goddamn crushed at my loss, I bolted into the house with the thought of cold murder overwhelming my mind. Whoever
Wow.
was really doing this was soon to be a dead son of a bitch. I ran into
Yeah,
my
get
room
him.
fully armed. There was still nothing. I refused to accept such a thing. I'm not crazy. I looked around my room. My DSI was nowhere to be seen. I violently flipped over my entire bed like a madman, pointing the gun straight at
Wow.
the carpet underneath. It wasn't there either. I heard the voice again, but it was a quiet
then the DS
giggle,
just starts
not the same
teleporting.
thing I heard from outside. It was coming from my right pocket. Overflung with uncertain rage, I took a clear shot at the confines of my pocket, which only resulted in a bullet piercing through my thigh. I howled in agony, feeling nothing but. I was gritting my teeth from the unbearable feeling I just gave myself. My blood was a horrid black, the same substance the creepy notes had been written in. Miraculously, the bullet seemed to have passed completely through everything but the system. I could see the light blue color from out of the bullet tear.
Bro
It was
just
completely
shoots himself in the leg.
unscathed. So, I did it once more. Good. Again, only my skin was pierced. The shot completely phased through the DSI. Not wanting to do that a third time, I pulled it out of my pocket, my bullet wound searing with pain. I stopped to look at it, alarmed by one detail. The power was on. Both lights were glowing black, which is a color no functional gaming system could possibly have. Horrified of
Why?
what could be inside, I opened it up and looked at the screen. All I could see was a blank, gray background, as if the thing was actually turned off. Then something came into the picture from the left. It was Fawful. He was slowly walking into the scene, sporting much more detail than any of his original sprites displayed. He was taller, had a longer cloak, and his legs had color to them with a realistic animation cycle. In fact, he was fully colored, even his green face. There were no gray specks to be seen on any part of his outline, something that characterizes an official Mario and Luigi sprite. He walked into the center of the screen and stopped to face me. He was blinking and smiling, very unlike his permanent grin. It was a calm, purposely formed smirk with no teeth exposed. It appeared as though he was taking a good, long look at my face. It finally amounted to him talking directly to me with his own voice. Piteous pity. Fawful sees that you're lonely. Is that being so? Feeling too frightened to move, speak, or even close the system, I simply nodded in response to his words. They oddly seemed to be calming me down. That is what happens when you have this specialness. Fawful has it too. Listening to him speak and move around like
What does that
that
mean?
made me feel better. The sound of his voice made my body forget all about any pain I was having. I even ended up smiling back at the screen. He continued speaking to me, and I was enthralled with the conversation. You make Fawful happy. He stepped closer to me and frowned for a moment. Does Fawful make you happy? I had to be honest
of
with
course.
him. Yes. I could feel nothing but overpowering felicity as he spoke to me in that English tone. I nodded happily, as if responding to a friendly remark. I had a friend with me all along. I tightly hugged my system, hoping that would please him. It turned itself off within a dead moment. I was upset that he had left me so soon, but somehow I knew what I had to do. I set the DSI back in my pocket, and with a big smile, I shot a hole clear through my left hand. It
Out
felt
of left
good,
field.
like I had been blessed.
So Logan doesn't die. He becomes like immortal.
chest with the mutual insignia.
actually love
I
it.
purposefully allowed my dusky blood to leak from my new marking. It completely coated my hand, making it look much prettier. I threw the useless pistol down onto the floor and grabbed for my friend's barrel-hued prison with my enchanted palm, clenching it firm in my bleeding grip. I stood my spine upright and closed my eyes tightly, more ready than ever. Alone, are you? That is such badness. All you need is you and Fawful. The chant caused my DSI to rupture itself, forming a multitude of cracks to cover it. The black cracks molded into threads that violently shot itself into my skin. It tickled. I could feel a new, profound meaning to my life course through my veins, spreading itself to every part of me. As my spine twitched from it, I happily strolled over to our big mirror. I could see the changes taking effect. Our eyes turned deep red, with the fluid remains of our insignia molded
Like
itself
Venom.
around the hand, taking the shape and color of my other half's fashionable glove. It felt amazing. I smiled widely at our merged self, wondering how my master was.
Are you feeling well, friend? He snickered quietly, quite happy to hear my voice. Yes, we are being perfect. Hell yes we are. I felt reborn. Although, we were wearing a flaw, that insipid hat of stupidness my imperfect self put on. My other half told me not to worry, and that he had a solution, snickering, our right hand shaped into the beautiful form of Master's lovely umbrous claw. We clenched the red smudge and ripped it to shreds. I couldn't help but cackle at it. We are having quite the power. He laughed yet again, thinking so too. The mightiest of all. Our massive claw gripped the nape of the neck and twisted. It did nothing, even taking the pistol and shooting ourselves in the head, only enough to tingle.
So he's just immortal.
We laughed wickedly, stroking our chin with the lovely claw. Think the others would like our little story, Master? Of course.
And that's where it all comes to an end. Listening to this creepypasta again honestly makes me appreciate it a little bit more. It's definitely like one of the better Mario creepypastas. I could probably maybe also say it's one of the best ones or greatest ones. Like, this just has like a pretty interesting concept to it. Like, you could tell that, like, you know, Fawful really has like a huge like impact on this guy. And, you know, I guess you can tell like he really means like a lot to the dude. And so this story is just a thing. And I do genuinely like this story a lot. I don't think it's bad. It starts off slow, but it's a pretty rewarding story for what it is. You know, like, let it slowly fester on until it eventually gets like into the greatness of it. Like, there's just so much here that makes me wonder about it. Like, firstly, let's talk about how Logan, like, so for some reason this only happens to like Logan. And, well, okay, let me like rephrase myself. I think it's nice that Logan actually has like motivation to play this game. Like, there's an actual reason, and it's due to this unknownness happening. Like, you don't know why the game, like this, why Bowser's Inside Story is like this. It's just the way it is, and this is just happening to Logan, and the side effects start to slowly kick in. And I actually like how this story ends. You know, I guess some creepypastas would probably just, you know, kill their character off. But Logan doesn't die. For some reason, he basically infuses with Fawful, and they basically share this story around. And I just gotta wonder, like, why would Fawful do this, I'm wondering. He, maybe just so people know about him or something, or as, like, some sort of way to, like, spread himself. I don't know, but it's interesting. I think that's a better way to, like, honestly, this is probably how you should, like, approach a creepypasta. I don't want to see people, like, copy this concept, but it's executed pretty well. It's slow, like, it starts off slow, but there's good build-up to everything going on with the story. and I can definitely say that I like it. And I also just gotta wonder, how would Logan's parents feel about this, like his family? Like, is Logan disconnected from society now due to all of this? Like, is he maybe he's unconscious in like the real world and his parents can't really do anything about. I don't know. It's something I'm now thinking of. Like, did Fawful take Logan to some sort of different reality from ours to basically just torture the guy? So for his sick amusement, whoever this weird Fawful is, it makes me wonder. Honestly, and overall, it works pretty well as just a one. I'm thinking to myself, man, how would a sequel work to this? But honestly, it's not even necessary. The story is pretty good for what it is. You don't need to continue it. And I think, well, good on you, Fawful's minion. This is a pretty well put together creepypasta. And you don't really get a lot of those often. I don't know, sometimes when I would listen to a creepypasta, I wouldn't really know how to feel about it at first. But I think listening to this kind of just, solidifies what I would think of it. It's slow, but there's a lot of build up to everything. And it's an interesting way to approach the whole haunted game concept. Having Logan slowly be affected by it, and him wanting to somehow fix this. And I like it. It's a good story, and it's nice to see that people are finding out about it some more. This was 9 years ago, 9 years ago, and then this guy makes an entire video, going over it, and I didn't say a lot on this stream, but I kind of wanted to just, let it play out, and then I would give my commentary on it. But good job, Fawful's minion. It's really interesting. There's a lot I wonder about it. And you know how I talked about the playable. I don't think we'll have time to check it out, but I think we'll go find it right now on YouTube. Oh yeah, Ouija Kid kind of. I guess we'll find it. Hey, all right. So I'm trying to find it, but there's a playable depiction of a 1RU. I don't know where, but there's an actual video of a 1RU out there, a playable, legitimate depiction of it. I can't find it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Ouija Kid made a video on it. There's an actual playable, sort of modded depiction of this story that somebody made. I'm not really gonna watch it right now. Well, I don't think I really have the time to watch it, but I think that's where I'm going to end the stream. I will ask, what do you think of this story? Does this story mean something to you? Do you like a 1RU? Do you think this is, a good story? Because I actually want to hear, what do you think of this story? What are your thoughts on this creepypasta? Because, personally, I like it. I'd probably listen to it again and again and again and again and again and again, forever. Damn, it's good. It is a really well put together story, and I'm glad people are finding out about it. So, yeah, bravo, Fawful's minion, bravo. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll check out this playable depiction on my own time. Fun stream. I bet some people didn't. Sorry for the technical difficulties, or some people I can tell kind of dipped out, and I mean that's understandable. I'm just sitting here listening to a story. It kind of went on for a while, but yeah, maybe I'll do a video on this story at some point. Really going into why I like it. But as for that, that's it. That's the stream. Thank you for watching. And we'll see each other again at some point. Goodbye.